Hey everyone, Irene Lyon here. Welcome to this video, to this channel, and to this entire world of healing the nervous system health and healing. And I wanted to bring back up to the surface a topic that I haven't spoken about, at least I don't think recently. I do speak about this topic a lot on podcasts, interviews, and I just did a Instagram live with a friend of mine, someone whom is a student, and I consider her a friend. Her name is Sarah Kleiner. I've done some interviews with her before for my channel, so I will pop those in here. But I was on her world, speaking about the nervous system, trauma, and weight loss. So in other words, what it takes for someone to find a healthy body weight where there is a good ratio of muscle and bone and fat so that we are metabolically healthy. I will post that podcast and IG live somewhere near this because it was on not only Instagram, but she put it on Apple Podcasts and YouTube. But I wanted to do a review of some of the things that we talked about because A, they are very important, and B, sometimes this part gets missed when someone is trying to not only maintain, but achieve a healthier metabolic body weight. So first thing, which is interesting, is some of the seminal research that was done that put on the map the fact that early trauma, developmental trauma, early stress, childhood stress, if not healed and dealt with, later in life, a person will end up getting sick of a whole host of chronic illnesses, mental illness, autoimmune conditions. The study that put that on the map, that connected early trauma with this potential to get sick later in life, it was called the ACE study, the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study. And I've done another piece on that, so I'm not going to review all the details of that study. Go back and listen to that one that I did quite a few years ago. But the quick and dirty of that piece of research is that it actually was an accident, them finding the connection between early stress and adult onset illness. They were doing an intervention, a health initiative with folks to help them lose body fat. Diet, exercise, social support, all the things that really we want to do to maintain and achieve a healthier body weight, really just health in general. And so what they understood, or what they uncovered, is that the people who were losing the most amount of body fat were also the people who were leaving this group support. They were disappearing. And the researcher, Vincent Felitti, who's still alive and is really the person connected to this Adverse Childhood Experiences study, he realized a weird trend in this cohort of people who were getting healthier. They were leaving, they were disappearing. Long story short, they found some of these people, and some of these people were thousands of people over the course of quite a while. And what bubbled up from their surveys and questions is that a lot of these folks who were struggling with metabolic health, excess body fat, as one example, had had some form of abuse early in life. Many of them had been sexually abused. And so that opened up this world of research around early trauma and health later in life. So that is a review of the ACE study. The things that we need to look at and understand when someone is struggling to find healthy body weight, we'll just say as adults, of course, nutrition is important, activity is important. Those are kind of the top ones that we think of when we think, okay, we need to get rid of calories in, calories out. This is what creates either healthy or unhealthy body weight. Now, to a certain degree, this is true. If I am less active because I'm sitting here more, or for whatever reason I'm just not moving as much, I will notice a change in my body composition. When I'm more active, when I'm exercising, lifting weights, walking more, I notice my body does slim down a little bit, but it's always within a few degrees of, let's say, pounds, right? It's not huge swings. But for some people, they might be tackling the calories and they're really eating well. They're not overeating, they're not undereating. They might be moving and even maybe moving a lot. And they're like, why isn't this shifting? Now, interestingly enough, Sarah, whom I mentioned, Sarah Kleiner, she found in her world that getting her circadian biology on track, so being more connected to the sun, actually helped her lose excess body weight. I'll put that interview near here. And the more I am seeing and learning around circadian biology and quantum health, this is a very important branch of maintaining healthy metabolism, healthy hormonal health, and a healthy body weight. So if you want to look into that, go to Sarah's site, check that out. Also an interview I did with Carrie Bennett talks about this as well from a quantum perspective. Super important and I think groundbreaking information for the health of our metabolism. But there's one more piece, and that is trauma. That is the nervous system. That is stored survival stress. So if a person is living in a state of what we would call fight, flight, and freeze. So fight, flight is sympathetic nervous system. That is high adrenaline, high cortisol. The world is dangerous. I'm in overwhelm. I can't focus. People might say, I've got ADD. I can't focus. I have hyperactivity. I'm always looking for a threat. Those traits in a person's behavior connects to this fight, flight. But then we also, for many of us, have a little bit of a blend of fight, flight, and freeze. And freeze is a portion of our nervous system that slows things down. And if we think about freeze from a perspective of survival, not only does it slow us down, it numbs us out a little bit. We don't get connected to our body. We're not connected to the world. We're not aware that we've eaten way more than we should. And because we're not connected to our internal physiology, namely our viscera, our gut, our stomach, we're not going to know that we are overfull. The biological cues are not accurate. So when we have this stored old trauma, and I won't get into all the definitions of trauma and what they are, but essentially it's a nervous system that is dysregulated. So I'm not going to get into all the definitions of trauma except to say right now, because I have other videos on this, it is when our nervous system is dysregulated, we are living in this soup of fight, flight, and often freeze. We might be in something called functional freeze. I did a video on this a while back, super important one, because this stuff starts when we're really young, and that's what I describe in that functional freeze video. But for the sake of simplicity, we are living in this survival soup, fight, flight, freeze. We aren't connected to ourselves. We're not connected to the outside world. We're not going to even know that we are, say, overeating for the sake of excessive caloric consumption, which does lead to increased body fat. Now, the other thing someone might be saying, well, Irene, I actually don't overeat. I'm very, very cautious of calories and I'm not overeating. I'm eating good food. I'm eating good portions of nutrients and macronutrients and fat and protein and carbohydrate. It's balanced. I'm not eating any sugar. I'm not eating packaged foods. I'm not eating seed oils, which we know they're just terrible for us. So let's just say there's this person and this also exists. And then you go, well, why can't they find their healthy body weight? And then we go back to the ACE study. We go back to one of the things that Vincent Validi found or heard from his patients who were in this initiative losing body fat was, I wanted to lose it, but that served as a protective barrier from the world. We know through, again, research in his studies that those who were sexually abused, assaulted, not always, but sometimes will carry that excess weight so as to not seem attractive to others. So they're trying to limit that exposure because they're trying to hide, and they're hiding literally under this excess, we would say, body fat, right? Because muscle is good. We want to build muscle in our body. But excess body fat, not so much, because that tips us into being metabolically unhealthy. It's not good for our insulin and a whole bunch of other things. So again, this idea of how is trauma connected to this inability to maintain a healthy body weight, we got to look at these underlying survival mechanisms that are keeping us stuck, keeping us shut down, keeping us frozen. Now, the other thing that occurs is when we have this soup of fight, flight, freeze, and let's say we have a chronic illness, maybe chronic pain, fibromyalgia, autoimmune conditions, our system is very, very much in what we would call collapse. Our body posture is collapsed. The tone in our muscles is flaccid and very, we would call low tone. There isn't vigor in the system. The system's blood supply it's there, but it's not pumping in a really good way. If you think about a raging river with lots of flow and lots of oxygen, that water is so clean because it's constantly being filtered, versus a swamp. Sure, there's still activity and life, biological life in a swamp, but I wouldn't want to drink that swamp water, right? It's not being cleaned, it's not being filtered. So if you think about the system, the human system, our blood, our lymph, our hormones, the juices that are excreted for digestion, and all the things that we need for a healthy system, when we're stuck in this collapse, in this freeze, in this shutdown, these systems are not flowing at maximal, solid, healthy capacity. And so we feel tired. The waste products of metabolism aren't being flushed out and excreted through our excretory organs, like the kidneys, for example. Our skin doesn't have the robustness to be a barrier of protection from the outside world. Our muscles just don't get the nutrition. So when we do move, we get fatigued way sooner because we're not getting that good exchange. We're not getting oxygen into the cells. We are more in a swamp-like situation than in a healthy, raging river with tons of energy and vitality situation. So I know that's a very oversimplistic way of looking at it, but this internal system of ours, when it is trapped in fight, flight, and freeze, not only are we in survival stress and we maybe fear the world, or we're hiding from the world, or we're hypervigilant to the world, our organ systems are also not working well. Our muscles aren't working well. Our bone, our tissue is not working well. It's not recovering. So of course someone isn't going to want to go and be active and robust because they know intuitively they can't. So you might be asking, what do we need to do? What does a person have to do? This is exactly what I teach in my online offerings, in my classes, in my other free resources. I do recommend going to my site, if this is you or this is people you know, and getting into my healing trauma video series. This breaks down the science a bit more with more complexity. I talk about the ACE study in that training. And I also talk about the importance of us sequencing our healing. So someone who is living in, let's just say, the state of deep collapse, right? They don't have the energy, they don't have the vitality to move their body and to be active and outside. I'm not going to say to that person, go to the gym and work out for 2 hours. That would be stupid, right? That would put them back. And if anything, it would injure them and put their system into more distress. So we have to start with baby steps. We have to start with stimulating the body, activating the body in small little ways so that it builds up a little bit of capacity, and then a little bit more and a little bit more. Over time, as we learn how to do that and we restore more regulation to the nervous system, and we're not trapped in these fight, flight, freeze responses, the system starts to perk up. It starts to shift from that swamp to more of a trickle of a stream, to a bit more of a river, to a raging river. This is exactly what I see happen to my clients, my students, when they really go full on in at learning about their nervous system, learning about, where their system is from a physiological perspective, survival based. Is it fight, flight, freeze? Usually for most of us, it's a bit of all of them. And then how to do the necessary steps, small baby steps, each and every day over time to build up this capacity so that our system can get into that vital, healthy, good flow situation. So like I said, lots of things to look at in addition to this video. Definitely check out my chat with Sarah. Check out the other resources I've mentioned. I put them all below in the show more section of this YouTube video. Thank you for being here, and we will see you next time.